Hiya, welcome to another episode of Pickler the Podcast, actually episode number 10. I am your co-host Stacie Townsend along with John, the People's Champ Davison. John, a lot's been happening this week. We both have been moving. How's your move going?
It's going well. You know, our landlord evicted Olivia and I. Not evicted, but told us to leave. And so we had about a week to find a new place, move in before she goes to the Dominican Republic for a work trip. So it's been a pretty stressful week, but we're in, got the new setup, and yeah, doing all right. How about you?
I was going to say the background, at least you got one room done. It looks like, or at least what we can see, half of the room
It's not done. It's just, that is done, I guess. And then everything else is a mess.
Well, mine, this is about all I have done from behind me. What I'm looking at is total chaos on the opposite side of the screen. But a lot of mess, a lot of chaos, not enough pickleball, but we still are carving out some time to talk about pickleball. And I'm very excited about it because we have an amazing guest today she is a top pro with major wins across all the tours. She is the first champion of Major League Pickleball with her team BLQK. She actually is a tournament organizer herself with Beer City Open. Not to mention she is a full-time practicing attorney to boot. And I think she has one of the best names for any broadcaster, Andrea Koop. Welcome, Andrea Koop.
Thanks, guys. It's good to be here.
Well,
welcome. Thank you so much.
We're super excited to have you today. So tell us, Andrea, what are your thoughts as with all of that going on? Where do you see pickleball going?
I mean, the two tours are elevating it, at least on the pro side. They're both the competition between the tours to, I guess, outduel each other. Right now is only good for the players because they are trying to up their ante every tournament, and at the moment it's benefiting all of us. We're the beneficiaries of that fierce competition between the two tours. And I think for amateurs it's great too. I mean, there are, I think, 1,200 people playing, or 900 people playing in Delray this weekend. There were 800 at Simone's last weekend. So I mean, there's no shortage, and clearly the demand is there for both tours, regardless. For the amateur product, they're paying the entry fees and they're showing up big.
Yeah, definitely, and I kind of predicted that as well when PPA started signing players. It's the two tours. It's like it's only going to drive the two tours to compete against each other and give the pros more money and more opportunities and sponsors, right? So because they're competing head to head, the players get to really choose where they want to go, right? So it's only going to benefit the pro players. And on the amateur side, yeah, you bring up it's way more tournaments for them to go to, so all good so far.
Absolutely. I see a lot of talk on the forum about entry fees for the tour leveled events, and I guess I think of it as you can go play your local $40 round robin event, and you can do that for that entry price, or you can come and get a different experience as an amateur at these tour stops that have pros. And I feel like if you were going to pay for a day to go out to a sporting event, you'd be paying that type of fee and you're not playing as well. So
right.
This way you get to play, pay for it, and then you get to sit and watch if you want to that day. And if you don't want to, then go play your local event, which there are plenty of those too. I mean, Pickleball Tournaments is racking it in. They've got 50 tournaments every weekend across the country on their website.
It's insane. Andrea, when did you start playing pickleball?
In the winter of 2017.
Okay. So you've been around for a long time, or not, but in the world of pickleball, what seems like a long time. Could you have predicted this when you first got into the sport?
Oh my gosh, no, I didn't even get into it for being a pro. It was something to do. I didn't even know there was pro pickleball, and I guess I'm not even sure that we would have called it that in 2017 or 2018. It's still, to me, a big hobby. It's taken over my life more, but no, definitely not the way it has. And it's really been about the last year that it's certainly exploded. I think for the last, probably even in 2017, 2018, there were a few, big names. Kyle, Simone were making money as pro players, but beyond that, there weren't too many. And now I bet there's 10 to 15 of each gender who are really doing pro pickleball as their living, and certainly doing a little bit of teaching on the side or marketing, but I mean, it's a full-time job for them.
So on that point, Andrea, you're a full-time practicing attorney. Have you thought about jumping in, going full-time pickleball, or what made you pick, I want to commit to being an attorney and keep that career going?
I was an attorney before I started playing pickleball. Because you did it. It's an investment to go to law school and do that, and it's not something I'm just going to throw away overnight. My husband is in Michigan. That's where I live. That's where I'm a lawyer at, and where I'm licensed, and practice has grown there. And it's not really a job that you move from. So if you gave it up now, it would be hard to get back in. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I have a few years. I'm going to play pickleball now, and I can get back into my career." I don't really think that's a thing for law. You'd be starting over again, and most firms don't want to start over with a 40-year-old.
No, that's a good point. But I've said this to you before, I think it's amazing what you're able to accomplish on the pro tour, because you're clearly one of the top players, and you're able to balance both this full-time career and pickleball, while your counterparts in the pickleball sphere are doing it 100% of the time. So what you're able to accomplish is incredible.
No, thank you.
So I want to turn back to the tours. And a few weeks ago, I noticed that you and your mixed doubles partner on the day, JW Johnson, were wearing a beautiful Swiss flag on your shirt, which I think I know what it means, but maybe tell us a little bit of the backstory and what you guys were trying to say that day.
I think at that point, JW was feeling a little bit of no love lost for the tour stop that we were playing at. Maybe they hadn't given him the love that he thought he had earned. I think he won singles at their first event of the year, and he may be in the process of winning singles right now as we speak in Port St. Lucie. I'm not sure.
He already won.
But he already won. There we go.
Yeah.
Perfect. And we all know that he's a great player. And so I think there was some controversy about the draws. I mean, there was just a lot going on, and pickleball social media was blowing up about that tour, maybe slighting him a little bit because he did not sign on the dotted line.
Right.
So yeah, he wanted to wear that when he got to play on center court, and that's another thing. He doesn't get to play on center court too often at that tour, probably because he's not signed, but I don't know the reasoning for it. And I was his partner that day, so I'm going to support him in that endeavor doing that. We had talked about we were going to do it if we got on center court, and it just happened that we got on center court for our first match against Ben and AL. So, wah, wah.
It's just crazy. Is there anybody, I mean, obviously, you feel yourself that if you have a good partner too, can beat that team. But like, what does it take, and who can beat that team? Because so far they're just crushing everybody,
Yeah, I don't know. Because we certainly didn't do it, and JW is one of the best out there for guys, definitely. And we were, I think, happy to get 6 points in game 2. We were like, oh, we didn't lose by more than half. So no, they're just a step above everybody, more than one step.
Yeah, but it's crazy because JW, at least this weekend at the PPA, has just been beaten up on Ben. They did beat Ben and Colin, and then he beat up Ben in singles too. So it's just crazy to see. He's starting to be like a change of guards. Maybe it's too early to call, but
I think it's pretty early to call. Yeah. And yesterday's
mixed.
Yesterday's weather conditions were abysmal. JW and Dylan. I didn't see the match I was playing at that time, but I'm sure they played great and they took advantage. But yeah, I just they've been playing in the wind the last few weeks on all the APP Florida stops, and I think the wind yesterday was at a whole other level of wind, and nobody was prepared for it. And when you play every week like they do, and it's like that, maybe you're just not into it mentally on the day when it was abysmal. But I don't know any other word to describe it. I've never played in conditions that bad before.
Yeah. I don't know. Was it in your match? Oh no, it was when there was a highlight that the Dink, I think, reshared where Cameron Blackwood hit a return and it drop shot it in the kitchen and it blew the ball back into the net for an ace return.
That happened. I don't know about ace returns, but in my match yesterday playing in that, there were a few times just in a Dink, like everybody's up the kitchen line and the team that was with the wind in their face. That's what happened. The team who had the wind at their back would hit a Dink and then it would bounce and hit into the net.
Yeah.
So it would be unplayable. It happened multiple times in the match, and there's just nothing you can do about it. Like, okay. Well, or I think I swung and whiffed a few times because the ball's just flailing in the air. Like, all right.
What do you tell yourself, Andrea, when it's that windy? And I was there. I can testify. You're totally right. The wind was crazy. Wind is the great equalizer, as you're kind of indicating. What do you tell yourself mentally to overcome that?
I mean, my Callie and I were just trying to laugh. Like there was nothing we could do about it, and it was miserable for all four of us on the court. So we were just trying to stay loose and laugh and remind ourselves to hit through it, because really, just playing normal Dink pickleball wasn't working. So we're like, all right, maybe we should pretend like we're on the tennis court again and swing through it. Yeah, it was quite a spectacle of pickleball until they called it on the wind delay, or before they did that.
Do you feel like when the wind's that bad, do you feel like it's better, like you just said, to like kind of swing free and just hope for the best, or to play to just make the ball?
I felt like when we swung free, we had more success, because when we played to make the ball, A, we didn't make the ball, and B, the wind, the more pace you take off of it, the more the wind would move it around, take it, and it ended up being kind of like a duck, duck, goose for the other side.
Yeah. Well, it's good advice for anybody, playing in these windy conditions. I feel like every time I go to South Florida, the wind is insane every single time. And I'm up in North Florida, so I'm like 4 hours away, and it's never that windy. So it's just crazy.
I've never played in that low. I played at the U.S. Open when it's wind before, and I think last year at Delray it was windy, but like I said, yesterday was a whole other version of special.
Yeah. It makes the game so sloppy, doesn't it? It's like,
I don't know if this is a PG podcast or not, but I told my partner that what yesterday would be what my version of hell, I think, would have to be, having to play pickleball in that for the rest of eternity in those conditions.
It's not a PG. It's what, PG-17, Stacie? What are we calling it?
It's whatever we make it that day.
Yeah, it's whatever. It's whatever. I've already said a few words on here, I think, accidentally.
Whatever the vibes are, we'll roll with it.
Perfect.
So, Andrea, you've played, since 2017, I think you've played at the top level. You had, for anybody that doesn't know, a stellar collegiate tennis career, which I think helped transfer over. And I think since 2017, if I had to go and guess how many different partners you've played with, I bet you are up there with playing with almost every pro there is. How are you able to make your style mesh with everybody? Like, what do you think going into playing with a new partner?
Especially now at the pro level, a lot of people are transitioning to right or left-sided players. I think, like Lucy is the best right-sided player. It's not even close. She's a right-sided goddess. And it doesn't mean that she's bad on the left, but she's not. She's also amazing over there, but she's just so good on that side. And I think that is somewhat how the men for sure are transitioning that, and the women are
Mm.
starting to. But I've always, because of my job, until recently, I could never commit early to a tournament. I couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would get partners who I would go play if somebody lost their partner, who, you commit for a year with somebody, and for whatever reason, 2 months or 2 weeks even before this tournament or something, their partner can't play anymore. So that's how I get a lot of my partners, or used to get them for sure. And I always would just, I got used to both sides. I still am used to both sides. And I always just say, like, whatever you want to do, and you just tell me where to go. And that's kind of always been how I have rolled, because I've never had a set partner.
The ultimate
That's pretty-
fill-in.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's pretty incredible though, because you see because you're able to get a lot of success even with
Mhm.
different partners, where you see a lot of times, a lot of people say, okay, like you look at Tyson and Jay, the first couple of tournaments, they did not perform really well, in terms of like where you think they should be.
Mhm.
Right. And it's like
Sure.
a new partnership, and, now they got on the medal stand, but for you to be able to like get on the medal stand and compete pretty regularly with a bunch of new partners is pretty incredible.
Mhm.
To like be able to adapt that quickly. I don't know if a lot of players can really do that. So
Well, thank you. Like I said, yeah, no, I don't consider myself a right-sided player or a left-sided player. I think I am known for being able to dig balls out,
Mhm.
but I'm trying to be able to play more aggressive, so that if I play with somebody like Callie, who likes to, go, 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 and first strike pickleball, I
mhm.
think I'm trying to be able to, I guess, be a chameleon, be able to just play exactly adapt to whatever partner I have, because that's the way that I'm going to be able to play with the top players, is being on call, because they're never going to be able to. It's their job. They do it for a living. They need a commitment 6, 9, however many months out in advance, and that's not something that I can do because of my job.
Right. And you mentioned something just now where like you playing against, with the top players, but I would consider you one of those top players.
Yes.
So,
Oh, thank you.
I mean, and I've actually said it on this podcast before. I wouldn't say underrated is the right term, but I would say that you are like you don't get as much attention, I feel like, as some of those touring pros, obviously, right? Because those guys are playing, guys and girls are playing every single weekend. But I think that like you are kind of almost underrated because you're not doing that every weekend, right? And then you come in and beat people up, and then you go home for a month, right? So I think you could consider yourself one of the top. I mean, if you look at the MLP too, right? I mean, that was every single one of the good players there.
Yep.
But I've always said that. I've always felt like you were like kind of flying under the radar a little bit, but still winning everything.
Thank you.
Do you feel like that could be as well? I don't know.
Well, it was definitely nice to get the bronze yesterday at the PPA, because I am the queen of fourth at the PPA. So that it was nice, but I feel like I can compete with any of the top players on any day. I think like a year ago, playing mixed at the highest level wasn't my favorite thing in the world to do. But I've adapted my mindset, and mixed is really hard to practice. It's a really hard, because you can practice dinking and the skills for mixed, but mentally, a guy just coming over and, the goal is to pummel the girl. Mentally getting over that is hard, and you don't get to you don't get to practice that. And if you're someone like me who doesn't practice all that much, or doesn't have the best practice set up, you really don't get to practice that. So that one though, it's a mindset, trying to do it. And yeah.
So what do you tell yourself now?
I try to be aggressive at the start, like take it at the guy early, because they're going to do it to me anyway. And I find that I don't know if it's true or not, maybe it's just mentally that I've said, okay, they're going to do it, you might as well get over it. But I think if you're willing to go at them, they can't just like move over as much or be as intimidating, unless it's Ben, in which case it doesn't matter. He can do anything he wants, but they at least have to respect that you're going to go at them or go down their line. So it does help a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think that's a good tip for rec players too, at all levels?
Oh, for sure. It's definitely a good tip for all levels. I don't know if rec players are quite playing the same type of mix. I don't know if the guy is moving over as much. My tip for rec levels is normally just to play unattackable pickleball or play smart pickleball. I think there's a difference between every level, for dinking and getting 2 or 3 in a row, and then bring your dinks down so that they're unattackable to get to the next level. And instead of 2 or 3, let's get to like 4 to 6. And at some point, you maybe all those highlight pickleball points for pros that are, I think last night we had one that was like 90 some point, 90 some shots. And I'm like, oh, that's insane. And that's only the highlight point, but most aren't like that. But if they are like that, every single one of us on the court can do it if we had to.
Right.
And I think that's what people, they try to skip that step. They try to skip the step of being able to hit consistent dinks.
I think that's great advice. I feel like that was my evolution. So I started 3-0, and you just make less errors, or you just keep the rally going longer. And then eventually at your level, right, you just have to win the point. But you're right. It's all about consistency and those unforced errors.
Yeah. And Stacie, you have to give yourself credit. You carried the team when you brought AL up
That's
from 4-0. That was all you. That was all you, Stace.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's right. Then I passed her off to her mother, Lee, and now look at her.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, you taught her everything she knows now, obviously.
Yeah, of course. I'll take that. So speaking of I want to go back to this partner conversation, Andrea. So there's these tours, there's more money. Do you think that's leading to more stability in partners? Is there anything people are thinking about now because there's more money involved? How have you seen that change?
I mean, I would say that the top people who've been doing it for a living have been committing mostly for the year in advance anyway before this.
To one person or to a small?
No, I mean, there were a few teams that were the whole year committed. I mean, last year it was like Jay and Pat ran the men, and I guess Ben rotated between his brother and Matt Wright, but I mean, there were a few teams up there, Riley and Tyson playing the whole time, and then on the women as well. I think you're right. I think Callie and Catherine might have split up in the middle of the year, but I think that was unexpected. I think they were committed for the year, and so I don't know if the signings this year have changed that, because I do think the probably top 8 or so men and women were committed for the whole year anyway, at least on the PPA tour. On the APP tour, you do see a little bit more mix up of partners, but now even with the increase of money, I mean, I have people asking me to play all the tier 1s on the APP tour, and it's the same thing. Like I can't commit 6 months out, so I can do it a few months out, but not 6. So I'll still be playing with different people, but I think you'll see more teams like Vivian and Deckel are playing the whole year for mixed. You'll see more teams like that. But I think Deckel's mixing up his men's partners, but again, I think that might have been I think he had planned to have a set partner, and then it just didn't work out, because sometimes it doesn't. So I think they all try to have a set partner for the year, because you want to grow as a team and get better as a team. That's the plan if you're doing it for a living, I assume.
So do you think it's good or bad for the sport to have the same partners all year round? It sounds like it's good in terms of maybe the partnership can grow. Do you think it's good for the fans and the viewership?
No, I can see how it gets boring for the fans and the viewership, but I also think that as more and more players come in, and obviously the money's continuing to grow. I know we don't like to tennis is a big bad word in pickleball, but you see the tennis isn't as doubles tennis isn't the main tour in tennis, but they still make a lot of money, and I don't think that it's as taboo in tennis to air quotes drop or to stop playing with a partner in the middle of the year, because everybody knows it's a business, and I don't think there's quite as much drama around it. And I would assume that over time, as more players come in and the money grows, that will happen in pickleball as well. But right now, there's, especially on the ladies' side, there's such a big gap between those top 10 or so girls and then everybody else. So if they did get dropped or for whatever reason stop playing together, it'd be more of a question, well, who are they going to pick up? Because there isn't somebody right there yet. But
right.
in tennis, there's so many people that if you stop playing with somebody this week, you can just find another excellent partner next week. And hopefully, I mean, that'll be great for the game when we get there. When we have that amount of players involved playing pro pickleball, then I think the tabooness of dropping won't be there anymore, because it just won't matter. They'll be interchangeable with how many players we'll have, and it'll be good for the game, but we're not there yet.
Yeah. How would you kind of recruit more women in the game? Like what like if you were a tournament director or whatever, you're trying to grow the game for the women, how would you think would be the best way to do it?
Well, as a tournament director, I already do try to recruit players to play. And we put amateur 5-0 on a different day from pro doubles. And then I try to say, like, play both. You can play both. And the event fee is the same. We just charging him for pro, and then we'll let them play amateur. So, I mean, we'll see how it goes this year with that, because there's so many more tournaments. But last year I was pretty excited because we had 14 girls in singles playing Beer City Open, and I think we had 16 women's teams, which that was a lot. That was a lot last year. But it takes a lot of effort on the tournament director's part to get those girls playing, and some of it is entry fees. The entry fees are high, and so there's a barrier to entry to get in, and we're working on it. And a lot of people want to know why those entry fees are so high, and I can tell you as a tournament director that we're fully sponsored. Like, my prize money is 100% sponsor funded. So those entry fees for the pros aren't that high because I need to, it's not gambling. We're not playing with monopoly money here. But if I charge $25 for the event fee, then any Tom, Dick, and Harry will just sign up to play pro. And right now we don't have a ranking system. It's like a first come, first serve free for all. So if all the Tom, Dick, and Harry sign up on the day of registration and they're all full before my pros sign up, that's kind of difficult. And since we don't have a ranking system, how do I go as a tournament director say, like, Susie 3.0, you signed up for the pros, you have no business being in this draw, and I have real pros who want to play it. But Susie 3.0 will say, wait, what? No, like, I signed up on time, and I followed all the rules, so you can't kick me out. We don't really have a mechanism in pickleball to deal with that yet. Whereas in tennis, like, when I signed up or when you played, there was an entry deadline and everybody followed it, and registration was open until the deadline, and you would sign up, and it didn't matter if you signed up on May 1st or June 30th. If the deadline was July 1, they just took the top 16 players or top 32 players when deadline closed. But we don't have a way of doing that yet in pickleball. And hopefully the tours are working on it, or pickleballtournaments.com. Somebody smarter than me is working on it. But until we get there, it's hard, because the entry fees are really the only thing managing, as I said, Susie 3.0 from signing up and filling up my draws before the pros sign up.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me what you're saying. I mean, I do agree with you, though. It needs more women in the game. So maybe having, like you said, a 5-0 women's draw on Saturday, pro women's draw Sunday, maybe some of those girls will cross over, For
sure. And I think you're already seeing it with these tournaments down in Florida. Again, the big bad word of tennis, but there's so many tennis players down here. And just last week in Plantation, I think they had a draw of 14 or 15 singles players in singles, and a number of them are tennis players. And I don't know if they're really transitioning over to pickleball, or if they were just like, hey, I have a weekend off and there's a pickleball tournament and I'm going to pick up a paddle and go play. But either way, it's great for the game to see that. And I think proximity, like, it's not going to happen in Michigan. I wish it would, but it's not. We don't have that. but down in Florida you can. And I think even this week at Port St. Lucie, the men's draw had a number of like active tennis players playing the draw this week. So I think as we play in locations where tennis is more popular or tennis players live, you will see at least singles draws be a little bit bigger on both gender sides. I think that happens in Southern California as well when they have stops out there.
Andrea, let's going back to the Beer City Open. Why did you decide to start that tournament, and why is it so important to you?
Well, I decided it was my co-tournament director, Paul Richards, and and Paul does all the work. The Beer City Open would not exist without Paul. So shout out to Paul Richards. But it was more that I was an associate in my law firm at the time, and all you lawyers out there know that means I was a slave. I was a slave to my desk, and I wanted to play more pickleball, but traveling was so hard in 2018, like getting away or knowing my schedule, because if my bosses wanted something on a certain day, it didn't matter if I wasn't there or not. And I thought, you know what, like I need to get a pickleball tournament in my hometown. Like this is what I need this to be here. And at the time there really was no pro or any type of big tournaments in the Midwest. We didn't have anything. So in my area, we have a really popular, like pickleball is really popular in the summer in Michigan, in West Michigan. We have 800 members in the club. So like it's a lot of people play. So I knew we would have club support for it. And once I talked to Paul into it, and now, I mean, again, I could never have imagined that pickleball and even pro pickleball would take off the way it did, but it was, it was all about me. I wanted a big tournament in my hometown, and we got it, and we worked really hard. And Paul wanted it as well, and he doesn't do anything half-assed, for lack of a better word. So he puts on a high class show, and it's all about it for the amateurs and pros alike at our tournament.
Yeah, I've heard it's a great time. And it's on the APP stop. It's an APP stop, right?
It is, and it's on the APP tour. So we're independently owned, like Paul and I own the tournament, but yeah, we are affiliated with the APP tour this year.
Well, now that I'm doing some commentating for APP, hopefully I will be invited up there, because I heard it's a great time.
That would be awesome. You have to talk to the powers that be. It's a USA Pickleball Golden ticket.
Ooh.
And I'm not in charge of the broadcast. So that is USA Pickleball and Boxcar, and
yeah,
I'm not sure, but yes, welcome. Please come.
I will do my best. I'll do my best to be there.
Any tips for anybody thinking about doing a tournament or in the position of being a tournament director? Any learnings along the way?
Oh my gosh. So it depends on what you're trying to run. I mean, if you're just trying to run a local stop, or if you're trying to run a big tournament, I would say avoid it. Start small. But we find for in our area, the round robins are so popular amongst amateurs. And if you're just looking to run a round robin, and you can get, we run, I think 3 or 4 of them a year up in Grand Rapids, and they get 200 to 300 people playing.
Wow.
But they love it because they're guaranteed 4 or 5 games to 15 minimum a day, for their bracket. So they know they spend that $40 for the entry fee, and, $30 entry fee and $10 event fee, but they love it because they're getting lots of pickleball. And then they also love it because those brackets, how we do it is they schedule each bracket. So example, ladies 3.0, 35 plus are going to be on courts 1 through 4, and you're starting at 8 a.m. Here's all of your score sheets. Just go play. Here's your bracket. All 8 teams just go to courts 1 through 4 and just stay there and play. And you're scheduled from 8 to noon on these 4 courts. Just play and fill in your sheets. And we do that for all the brackets, and they really like it because you're scheduled from 8 to noon, or you're scheduled from 12 to 4, or whatever else. Whereas at these double elimination tournaments, the bigger ones, it's awesome. It's a party atmosphere, but you could be there all day for just 2 or 3 matches.
Yeah, and you were there all night last night, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. So we started yesterday at 9 in the morning, and we had a bye, so we didn't get on the court until probably 10:30 in the morning, which I mean that's fine. We went 3 games, so finished 11:30, 12-ish, and then had a wind delay until 5:30 when they started again. But they scheduled us third on after 5:30 on Stadium, so we didn't start until about 7:30, and we lost in 3 games, and then we had to play the back draw, and I think our bronze match finished at 10:30.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
I was watching you guys. I mean, you guys dropped the first one, right?
yep.
And then you and Callie, you were down in the second game, right?
I think we might have been down like 2-0. It wasn't anything big.
For some reason, I thought it was
But
like 5-1 or something. I can.
I probably felt like that because we lost 13 straight points. We lost 11-0, and then we were down 2-0. I'm sorry, Callie. That was all me.
Yeah, but you guys had a great, strong comeback.
Mm-hmm.
We were watching, so congrats on your
Thanks.
bronze medal.
Thank you.
So what
Lucy came out very hot.
Yeah,
she did.
definitely.
She just ripping it.
She was, and they were going in.
Yep.
Any tips when it comes to strategy, Andrea, or any strategy that you are partial to?
Oh, well, if anybody watches me or knows me, I will stay in the cross court dink forever. Like I will do that and forever and ever and die on that hill. But I always like to say that if you can stay low and reach in, the lower your center of gravity is, then you will realize that balls that maybe you didn't think were attackable really are. So if you're standing straight up, a ball that is high may not seem high because you're standing straight up. So you might just redink it again, and you don't even know that you missed an opportunity that you could have attacked. So get your center of gravity lower, and you are going to find all these balls that you used to not attack are all of a sudden very attackable.
Yeah, I have that problem. I can be very lazy to stand straight up, and whenever I play, I'm told by Olivia McMillan that I need to get my booty low because I'm just standing straight up playing lazy, and I wonder why I miss some shots.
Yeah,
it's you really got to get that butt low. Yeah,
you do. If you play pickleball right, you should have your butt should be sore the next day if you play a long day of pickleball.
Yeah, well, for me, I go 4 games max. 2 and 2. A 2 and 2 is a good 2 and 2 is a good day for me. All right, so
okay.
Usually I'm done as the women's draw is starting. So like I'm finishing. Olivia's like in her first, second round, and then I'm just a cheerleader for the rest of the day. So
that's okay. Everybody has their role.
Yeah, exactly.
Andrea, where do you expect pickleball to be? What's your predictions?
I mean, I think it's going to be massive. I think that a sport we could compare it to, at least on the pro level, might be like beach volleyball. That's a niche sport, but it has a thriving pro tour. I wouldn't compare it to like a team sport, to soccer, basketball. I don't think we're going to be in that level because we are individual sport. And a lot of people again like to compare to tennis and say, "Oh my gosh, well we're not at tennis, or we are this compared to tennis." But I don't think people understand that professional tennis has been around since I think 1971 when Billie Jean King and the original 9 did their $1 contracts, and for the men in the 60s. So pro tennis has been growing for 60 years now. So pro pickleball's been around really for about 3 years, and it's grown massively in 3 years, but it's okay that we're behind tennis. They've got a pretty big head start.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, but it is exciting to see where it will go because I think the ceiling is pretty high.
I totally agree with that. I agree, and I think the game has to be open to changing format, adapting format. I, as a player, am not excited about rally scoring. That's not something that I want, but I do understand how maybe being a little innovative or having a clock on it might get more fans or might be able to have a set TV schedule. So I don't know what the answer to that is. I don't know what it'll look like, but I do know that those are all conversations and they're legitimate conversations, because I can tell you from being a tournament director, we try our hardest to say that the finals is going to be scheduled for 6 p.m. And we tell you the finals is never scheduled. It never happens. It just never starts when we have it, what the computer says it will start at, because that's not how a draw in pickleball works. You know, we're just guessing about how long every match is going to take.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And about that, you were talking about, like, you know, changing the way pickleball, you know, rally scoring, whatever formats. I believe you were part of like a player council at some point, or at least started one. Where is that, and why are we not hearing about it anymore?
Well, I definitely didn't start a player council, but we have all had talks at certain times with players to, you know, try to have our voice be a little bit stronger. But I think even tennis is having these conversations. If you follow Novak Djokovic and the news of, I think he calls it like the tennis players, I don't know, Pro Tennis Players Alliance, it doesn't matter, but the media has been calling it a union, and it's definitely not a union, but they're not even getting it in tennis that's been around for 60 years, because pickleball and tennis are individual sports. So we are stronger as a unit for bargaining, but there's always those people who are going to say, okay, well, if you guys don't go to this tournament or threaten to not do something, well, then all the money's available to me, so I can go play it. So it's really hard to get any support for it because it's an individual sport. So the conversations have been had, but those are the roadblocks in an individual sport. There's always just somebody else willing to go play or do it, and right now the tours know that. So that's why it's so impressive what golf has, because golf has a pretty strong player's voice, and they have player reps, and I think they have, you know, a player coalition and type thing, and golf is certainly an individual sport. So hopefully we can learn from them and over time, but those are the roadblocks we're facing.
What's your best advice to pro players, whether it's on this alliance concept or otherwise?
I mean, I think that there's a lot of skepticism on all the pros' parts. Like I said, like, it's an individual sport, and there's always well, why would you want to do this? Like, why is that good for you? Or if that's good for you, it's not necessarily good for me. But I do think that in order to have change or progress, that you might have to sacrifice to get that at first. And that's the roadblock. That's where people don't want to.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like game theory almost.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
Now, what's your opinion, if we can ask, about these player contracts? Do you think it just really depends on what the player finds best for their situation, and it's like either way is okay, or is player contracts bad for pickleball? You know, I'm kind of picking your lawyer brain here too a little bit.
I mean, I wasn't a fan of them. As we've already said, pickleball is so new, and the growth of pro pickleball has exploded even in the 3 years. Pickleball has been a pro sport for 3 years, and signing a contract for 3 years that you're only going to do this one thing for 3 years, well, we don't even know what pro pickleball is going to look like 3 years from now. But that being said, everybody has to do what they think is best for them, and I don't fault any player for signing it or doing that. And it's not like as an unsigned player you can't go play on that tour. I mean, they treat me great. I'm not a signed player, and I have very good, I guess, relationships over there, and I don't feel slighted or any less valued or important. If that means anything. So it just didn't work for me with my job. I couldn't commit 100% to playing 15 tournaments a year. I think I'll play that for sure, but not for them. Their majority of their tournaments on the West Coast. So for me individually, it didn't make sense for a lot of different reasons, but that doesn't mean it doesn't make sense for all the players who did sign it. And, but in the long run, I don't know if signing something, like I said, you don't know what pickleball is going to look like in 3 years.
Yeah. And would you think that players at this point in pickleball and the way the sport is now, do you think that they should have representation or like a lawyer to look over some of these contracts and kind of advise them? Because
absolutely. I mean, I hope that they all did. I don't know if they did or not, but I hope that they did, because these tours, both tours, need all the pro players. They need them, not just a few of them, and that's why. I mean, it's not a zero sum game to them. That's why, even though I didn't sign, I'm sure like they still are they want me to go play their tour because they need more than just the signed players playing their tour. Because otherwise they just have a glorified exhibition.
Right.
It's true.
No, it is true.
Yep.
So Andrea, what else should we know about you, or what else should we look forward to as the pickleball population watching you?
Well, I'm playing in Delray this week. I am waiting for my husband to get here. He's coming down. This will be his first pickleball trip this year. He usually goes to one. So maybe this is my only one of the year. Last year he went to Denver PBA, but we'll see if I can get him to do two. I mean, he does go to Beer City, but pickleball is not really his thing. But anyway, that's okay. This is it for this year. Maybe we'll see. But after that, I'm excited. I get to play mix with Ben Johns in 2 weeks in Austin because Annalise already had a partner, so he. This is me just being available, but so I'm excited for that opportunity. Yeah. And then I think US Open in April. I'm playing with Irina, and I love any opportunity I get to play with Irina. She's so much fun, and she's a great partner, and obviously one of the best players out there.
Getting the team BLQK back together is what I'm hearing.
Oh yeah,
that's right. That's true, for sure.
Well, yeah, before we go, is there anything you'd like to say to your fans worldwide?
Just thanks for the support. I always like it when people come and say hi, or people always usually apologize when they ask for a picture, but I always, that's why we're out here. If people weren't into watching us, we wouldn't have pro pickleball, and the fans are the ones that allow us to be able to have pro pickleball. And again, it's not my job, but I love seeing pro pickleball grow and people being interested in watching us, and being there is good for us. So please never apologize for asking to talk to me or take a photo with me. Like I want you to. It's good for me. It's good for pro pickleball. It's good for all of us.
Awesome. Well, Stacie, is there anything else you want to add?
A free invitation to go cheer on Andrea Koop, grab a picture, signature. Sounds like a good time. So go support her at Delray Beach, Austin. Sounds like you may be heading back to Colorado, the PPA there. So
yeah, come and sign up on April 12th for Beer City Open,
right.
when we open registration.
That's right.
I have heard amazing. I haven't been myself, but I've never heard a bad thing about Beer City. I hear how fun it is. So please support Andrea Koop in the Beer City Open if you can as well.
Well,
thank you guys.
Andrea, we always go out a certain way. I don't know if you have a cup nearby.
I can get one.
Well,
we can do a fist bump.
Cheer. Yeah, it's all right if you do a little fist bump, but we always cheers the camera. I have a White Claw here. I'm hoping to get sponsored. I haven't had any luck yet, but we always just cheers the camera. So if you're ready, Pickler out.
Pickler out.
You can just fist